What if your kitchen flame becomes your biggest expense? Cooking gas is now selling for 2,000 Nigerian nairas per kilogram. And marketers say it's not magic, it's a storm of supply disruption and profiteering. That's the harsh reality Nigerians face today. The Nigerian Association of Liquefied Petroleum Gas Marketers, NNPC, says the recent surge in cooking gas, LPG, prices is rooted in temporary supply breakdowns, loading delays, and market opportunism. In this 10-minute dive, we unpack the mechanics of LPG pricing and how supply chain disruption and labor conflict are feeding into it. Before digging into causes, it helps to see how cooking gas gets priced in Nigeria. Crude/feedstock plus LPG production. The cost to refine or source LPG from gas fields or importers. Logistics/loading/transport. Moving gas from depots to retail stations, including pipeline, truck handling. Marketer margin plus station costs. Running costs at the retail front, staff, overhead, storage, security. Taxes, levies, import costs, if applicable. Supply and demand dynamics plus risk premium. In tight markets, prices can spike as operators protect themselves against shortages or delays. When any link in this chain cracks, especially logistics or supply, the effect flows downstream quickly. What marketers and NNPC are saying. Marketers' position. In the Punch article, NNPC points to temporary supply disruptions as the key driver of the price hike. They argue that loading delays, distribution interruptions, and constraints in the midstream sector force them to rely on more expensive alternatives or to reprioritize allocations. NNPC's view. The GCO of NNPC, Bayo Ajalari, attributed the jump partly to the PENGASSAN strike, which delayed loading and distribution for 2 to 3 days. He also stated that certain marketers who had existing stock seized the moment to increase retail prices. He characterized the hike as partly artificial, due to opportunism, promising that prices should normalize once supply lines stabilize. How supply disruption and labor conflict feed into price spikes. The PENGASSAN strike and loading disruption. Industrial action by PENGASSAN affected LPG operations, especially loading at depots and movement of gas, thereby reducing throughput. When supply is throttled, even briefly, shortages cause these passes downward. Dependence on stock buffer and panic buying. When supply is constrained, consumers rush to fill cylinders, panic buying, emptying local stock faster and pushing demand above supply. Marketers then replenish on tighter margins, sometimes from costlier sources. Opportunistic pricing. When some operators still had inventory, they increased prices, citing scarcity. That markup amplifies the base increase caused by supply restrictions. NNPC itself admits some of the increases were opportunistic. Exchange rate and import dependencies. Though many components of LPG supply are local, Nigeria still relies partly on imported equipment, spare parts, and sometimes imported LPG or feedstock. Currency depreciation raises these costs, which operators may pass to consumers. The impact on households and small businesses. Many families already tight on budget now see their energy bills balloon. A jump from 1,000 Nigerian nairas per kilogram to 2,000 Nigerian nairas per kilogram, or local equivalents, can double what a household spends on cooking. Small food vendors, cafes, and street food businesses often operate on thin margins. This increase can force them to raise prices, reduce serving sizes, or switch to cheaper but dirtier fuels, charcoal, firewood, kerosene. Some people report they now ration water heating, skip certain meals, or revert to inferior fuel sources just to manage costs. In Lagos, at some gas plants, queues have lengthened. Some consumers stock multiple cylinders out of fear of further hikes. Why prices haven't dropped yet? Barriers to relief. Even after the strike ends or supply resumes, price relief may lag due to backlog in the supply chain. Depots, trucks, and storage must replenish. There's a timing lag. Persisting high input costs. Even if supply returns, imported parts, transport fuel, and maintenance costs remain high. Markup retention. Some marketers may be reluctant to lower margins once established. Lack of regulatory enforcement. Without pressure, price disciplining rarely happens spontaneously. Market uncertainty. Operators may price in future risks, another disruption, FX depreciation, as buffer. What needs to be done? Path to stabilization. To bring cooking gas prices back to reasonable levels, several policy and operational moves are needed. 1. Ensure uninterrupted supply and distribution. Quickly resolve industrial actions. Maintain pipeline and loading infrastructure. Strengthen logistics to prevent choke points. 2. Regulate and monitor pricing behavior. Government agencies must audit LPG marketers during crisis periods. Punish or reverse egregious markups that exploit scarcity. 3. Subsidies/buffer stocks for vulnerable consumers. Temporary measures for low-income households while stabilization occurs. Government fuel or gas reserves can cushion short-term shocks. 4. Local production and infrastructure investment. Expand domestic LPG production capacity. Invest in storage, transport, and depots to reduce dependence on external supply chains. 5. Transparent cost structures and public communication. Publish breakdowns of gas pricing, input, logistics, margin, so citizens see how costs evolve. Regular updates from NNPC, ministries on supply status to avoid panic. 6. Risk mitigation and contingency planning. Gas sector should prepare for strikes or disruptions, alternate routes, backup depots. Policy framework to limit speculative surges during supply constraints. Final thoughts. The rise in cooking gas prices in Nigeria is not a random spike. Marketers and the NNPC trace it to real cracks in supply, a strike that disrupted loading and opportunistic pricing. But as much as blame rests on disruption, much also lies in weak regulation, fragile infrastructure, and lack of resilience in the LPG sector. For now, Nigerians are paying dearly at their stoves. The hope is that supply normalization, pricing discipline, and strategic investment will bring relief. But whether that happens quickly enough to ease household pain is the real test.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this update and want to stay informed with fast, reliable news, don't forget to subscribe to Newsflash 360. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. Your next headline is just seconds away.